podcast exploring our fantasy wrestling hobby, where the wrestling is written, but the characters are real. I'm your host, Mikey Unlikely, and I'd like to thank you for joining us here on the Atomic Dropcast Network. All right, everybody, it's episode 21, and what an episode we have. We've got the Efed question of the week this week. I'm excited about this one. We've got the Efed podcast spotlight. That's a new Efed this week. And of course, we've got the interview segment. And this week, we've got Jordan, the handler for Silk, at Silky Smooth Efed on Twitter. I'm excited for all of that and much, much more. If you want to interact with the show, you can find us on Twitter at the Efed Podcast. That's where we have our question of the week pinned to the top of the profile. Also in that profile, you can find the link to the Discord server. Click on that link and you'll be joined right in with the rest of us in the Efed community to talk about the Efed Podcast and all of e-wrestling. Don't forget to check out the Patreon at patreon.com/Efed Podcast. Really appreciate our supporters over there. And if you want to check it out and help support the show, that is the place to do it. Before we get started with the show, let's hear a word from our sponsors.
This Thursday at 8 p.m. on Prison City, Cam has to confront the ghost of her past and get by the Queen. Then immediately following, we are riding shotgun with Misty Demeans on her road to the GCC Featherweight Championship match against Gaia Galanis at 9 p.m. Prison City at 8 and riding shotgun with Misty Demeans at 9 only on wearsplat.com.
Hey guys, are you digging this podcast? Well, we really appreciate it. I'd also appreciate it if you check out my other podcast. The Atomic Dropcast is a look back at the wrestling of yesteryear through adult eyes. We watch the wrestling that we watched as kids, as adults, with a couple of beers in our hands. It's a great time. Check it out over at atomicdropcast.com. You can also find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Defiance, an angle fed boasting 8 years of continuous fantasy wrestling. Defiance offers opportunities for original characters, micros, a standalone website utilizing Backstage 3 script, and a forum hosted on the long-running fwrestling.com, as well as a roster full of some of the most experienced writers in the game. Come see for yourself at DefianceWrestling.com. That's DefianceWrestling.com.
The Efed question of the week.
The Efed question of the week is brought to you by the EWC. The Extreme Wrestling Corporation is the game's longest-running roleplay Efed, having been established in 1997. With over 100 active roleplayers across 4 unique brands, the EWC offers opt-in booking on all of its bi-weekly shows. It's home to Stranglemania and the 4-day wrestling festival known as WrestleFest. The EWC is built on its welcoming community with zero bias and no drama. All styles are welcome. Come check out the EWC today at EWC4life.com. That's EWC, the number 4life.com. This week we're going to mix it up with an in-character question. How would your character spend their time in quarantine? Let's go to the Discord where we've got billionaire Miles Blake with what? Do you know who I am, bro? I'm Miles fucking Blake. I'm a goddamn billionaire. I'm gonna go piss away 20 G's by betting on an Ohio sports team, and then I'm gonna hole up in one of my hotels. Blake Luxury Living. Sounds like a hell of a character. D. Brunk. I would keep in shape, make sure my family's taken care of, make sure the people who work for me are taken care of, and then I would say, hey Miles Blake, you stupid motherfucker. Sports aren't happening during a quarantine. Use this time to use some of that money to buy yourself a brain, you tool. Then I might take a nap or something. Well, damn. That guy's a dick. At Alex Smiley, Aeon. You're welcome, planet Earth. I'll be laughing away as I travel off to somewhere cozy and watch humanity sort itself out. And over on the Twitter side, we've got at Dick Tweedless, weed, beer, pancakes, maple syrup, and your mom. Of course it would be. At Aaron Arkham, drinking nonstop wine and repeatedly listening to the album Disintegration by The Cure. At Armenian Beast, the Bhutanese Beast, Karma Tenzin. As a lifelong Buddhist, I am no stranger to isolation. I'll spend quarantine and meditation with the occasional butter tea. And when quarantine is lifted, I'll go and get shit-faced with Gurjin. Man, can't live on butter tea alone. True that. I've tried living on butter tea alone. It doesn't work for me either. Also from Romanian Beast, the Costa Rican Beast, Diego Diaz. The only proper way to spend quarantine is on an island with some chicas and lots of booze. As long as no one joins afterwards, we'll be okay, right? At Watson Mill Kid. Knit me a scarf. I can't wait to see Zeb Martin. At K Free Pay Me. Streaming 5 nights a week on Twitch, most likely playing Fortnite. At Memphis Tommy, finally unpacking all these boxes we just put in the garage because we were tired of unpacking. Oh, there's my phone charger. At El Perro Ward, Xbox, basketball, spending time with my son. Okay, fine. Pornhub as well. You happy? At Henry_Blackstar, liberally sampling the contents of my whiskey cellar. At TW Combat, workout, play on Twitter, and remind at M. Demeans that they get knocked around by TW Combat Sports consistently. Oh, snap. At Project Holland 3, at home with SM_lyric, working out, taping promos and other stuff, and selling merch online. At XWF Fuzz, honestly, I hoard all the tacos, but definitely not from Taco Bell. Switch between Netflix, Hulu, and Prime Video, beat some scrubs on the PS4, and get really drunk. But hey, that's most days anyways. At Centurion Real, watching every Masters tournament from 1960 to today. There's some good ones in there. At MJ_Flair, my CrossFit is closed, so I'll be making use of my mom's treadmill to at least keep my cardio up. And beyond that, I've been isolated in my studio filling up canvases. Nice. At That's Aziv Evans, well, Mr. Unlikely, how would I spend my time in quarantine? I'd be spending more time cleaning my humble home, cooking 3 square meals a day, and snuggling with my supportive spouse on our sofa while viewing multiple movies. At Tweets by Tony11, sitting at home in my computer watching the stock price of the surgical equipment company I put a few bucks in blow the hell up. COVID-19, shit for the world, great for my investment portfolio. Thank you guys very much for participating in this week's Question of the Week. You can catch it each and every week on Twitter at the Efed Podcast. It's right at the top of the profile. It's always pinned there. Go ahead and hit the comment button and leave your answer below to be featured in a future episode.
This is Dick Fury, and remember, tune in, listen on your Spotifys, your YouTubes, and all of that stuff to the Efed Podcast, hosted by Mikey Unlikely.
Welcome to the Efed Podcast Spotlight, a segment where we highlight a single Fed that's out there, take a look at the website, go over the roster and their championships, and kind of just check out some of the rules as well. This week, the Efed Podcast Spotlight is on DefianceWrestling.com. You knew I had to do it. I haven't been a homer since episode 2. DefianceWrestling.com is a place I've been for quite some time. And as far as the rules of the Fed go, it's quite simple. Defiance is an angle Fed. You tell the stories you want to tell, you get into the feuds you want to be in, and you chase the championships that are fit your character. It's a great place to be if you just want to sit back, take the competitive edge out of e-wrestling, and just make it a fun storytelling atmosphere. I've been in Defiance Wrestling for about 4 years now, and I've certainly enjoyed telling the growth of my character over that time. DefianceWrestling.com has been around for 8 years consecutively through multiple owners. It is a bi-weekly angle Fed, meaning you only have to submit matches, segments, and/or interviews on a bi-weekly basis. There is an intermediate show every other weekend called Uncut, but it is completely optional and only there for character and storyline development. As far as the championships go, there are a couple championships at DefianceWrestling.com. There is the Fist of Defiance, which would be your typical world heavyweight champion, currently held by Mikey Unlikely. That's not the corona cough. There is the Southern Heritage Championship, and then there is your Defiance Tag Team Championships. Of course, there is the Brazen Championship as well, and of course you're asking me, well, what is Brazen? Brazen is the underleague, the startup, the training school, the farm league for DefianceWrestling.com. It's full of mostly NPCs, but it's a great place to start your character and watch him build his way to the main roster. As far as the website goes, guys, it's a fully functioning website, DefianceWrestling.com. This is a micro-fed. It's not a pick-based. It is not a poser. It is not a cough-fed. This is micros. I have a lot of fun with these, and there's a lot on the roster page, which you can find under Defiance. On this site, you're going to find the news, you're going to find the history, you're going to find the character development stuff, you're going to find everything you need, including the forums, which will link you directly to the legendary FWrestling.com. It's been around forever. DefianceWrestling.com has been around forever. Check it out now. It's a small regional fed based out of Louisiana with some huge stars in it. It's a lot of fun there. I've been there forever. I've already said that 40 times. Of course, the website is built on the backstage programming where you can get a login, you can backstage and enter your role plays, enter your matches, your segments into the show so that they all appear just the way that you enter them. It's a great system. When it comes to the roster members, you have, of course, Mr. Mikey Unlikely, long tenured and great guy. I love him, honestly. He's fantastic. You've got Twists and Turns, Oscar Burns. You've got Scott Douglas. Also, that's Brian, producer of the show, efedpodcast.com. Check it out. You've got the pop culture phenoms, the D and Elise Aries. Of course, they've got Klein with them. Gotta love Klein. We've got Gage Blackwood. We've got Scott Stevens and the Stevens clan. It is a menagerie of characters and fun over at DefianceWrestling.com. Check out the website, jump up over on the forums, and hit the application button, fill out the application, and you will be voted in to DefianceWrestling.com. Overall thoughts, I love the Fed. I love the Fed head. I love everything that's going on over there. Their world champion is fantastic. The Fist of Defiance, Mikey Unlikely. It's a great time. Check it out, guys. DefianceWrestling.com. I'm not going to plug it again until the end of the show. DefianceWrestling.com. Hey, everybody. It's Mikey. No, we're not back to the show just yet. First, I want to tell you about my Patreon. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh no, am I going to have to pay for the podcast? No. The answer is emphatically no. The show has been and forever will be free. No, Brunk, you will not have to pay for the podcast. However, we have been asked by a handful of people how they can help support the show. And we've also been asked, mostly by Fuzz, why we didn't have a Patreon yet. And I quote, "You stupid motherfucker. I can't believe you don't have a Patreon. I will hurt you if you don't take my money now." End quote. That was Fuzz. He's a scary dude. So with that in mind, you can find us at patreon.com/efedpodcast. Contributions start as low as $3 a month. Thank you very much for your consideration. Please get Fuzz off our backs. All right, guys, welcome back to another edition of the Efed Podcast interview here on the Atomic Dropcast Network. Today, we're joined by Jordan, the man behind what appears to be one of Twitter's favorite wrestlers, Sean Isaac Leonard Kennedy, a.k.a. Silk. He's a wrestler for Southside Wrestling, Mainstream Wrestling, Oath, and Wrestling Christ, at Wrestling Christ on Twitter. He's also formerly of 4CW and Elysium, which are both on hiatus currently, and he's working on adding another Fed to the list. Jordan, thank you very much for joining us for an interview today. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad, man. Thank you for that introduction.
Absolutely.
That was epic. I don't know if I'm everyone's favorite at times, but I try to get people to laugh here and there.
There you go. Yeah. Seems like ever since I started this, I've been hearing your name pop up on half of these interviews. So wanted to make sure I definitely got you on. You'd signed up for the interview very early on. So definitely appreciate you hopping on board.
I appreciate you having me, and hopefully you heard more positive than negative. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Definitely. Let's start at the beginning. How did you get into professional wrestling?
Basically, as a kid, it started off with my grandpa. We used to always watch Saturday Main Event in his den, and then I went to WrestleMania 6 at the Skydome, and that was my first taste of like seeing it live and in person, and I was just a little kid.
Wow.
But I just remember being in awe of the whole Warrior and Hogan thing. And I was just hooked from a young age, and it was, as I look back on it, I think it stuck with me because, again, my grandfather, it's something sentimental that we shared together. So
that's really cool. And how old were you when you went to Mania?
Oh man, I was 7.
That's sweet. Yeah, that's a lifetime experience, once in a lifetime.
Yeah, it was nuts. It was crazy. I actually went to another one which people wouldn't expect was WCW Mayhem in '99 when the Air Canada Center just opened.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, actually not really, man, because you know what? The main event, I was a Bret Hart mark, and the main event was Bret Hart and Chris Benoit for the World Heavyweight Championship.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, to see him win it at home, it was kind of cool after the whole Montreal thing, right?
Right. So who are your favorites growing up? Obviously, you just said you were a Bret Hart fan.
Yeah, I was a massive Bret Hart fan, huge Randy Savage guy. So I'm up in Canada, so we didn't really get NWA and WCW before WCW started Saturday night on TBS.
Okay.
So I wasn't really exposed to WCW until about like 94, 95, like before the Hogan heel turn. But I wasn't really like invested in Ric Flair and guys like that. I was during his WWF run, but in terms of I didn't really know the history as a kid growing up. So my guys were like, Bret Hart. My favorite faction was the Hart Foundation faction, actually, when they did the whole anti-American thing. And, they had Pillman for a bit with Owen Hart and Davey Boy and Jim the Anvil Neidhart. That was probably my favorite faction next to, obviously, I think the NWO was everyone's favorite faction back then. But
Hart Foundation was awesome. Let me put that out there. Listen to my other podcast, the AtomicDropcast.com. Let me plug that. But we're watching 1997 WWF all over again, every Raw, every pay-per-view. And that Hart Foundation, they are the staple of 97 Raw.
Oh, and you know what? I think people really sleep on how good Bret Hart's promo skills were during that time.
So good. Probably the best promos he's ever had.
I agree, man. And I think he was at the top of his game, man.
Yep.
And it was even better now that we can look back with the hindsight of the stuff between him and Michaels, what was really going on there. And you go, because I don't know if you remember, but do you remember Craig TV or whatever that was? You remember that Craig TV that was around a couple years ago? And they used to play 96, 97, 98, 99 every month. Like every Raw, every SmackDown in chronological order on a continuous loop. So
that's pretty cool.
That's how I caught up on the Attitude Era, post being a child, you know what I mean? So
right.
When we'll never see an era like that again. These young,
it was wild.
These young kids don't know what they're missing.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah. Hart Foundation were definitely awesome, but other than them, who else did you have? Randy Savage,
like I said, Randy Savage. I like the heel a lot. So I love Jake the Snake Roberts. Even when he did the heel turn on Savage with the snake and stuff, just his promo skills were just like so intoxicating. I like The Undertaker. Obviously, I think everyone did.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually a Triple H fan up until I guess until he went to the Lemmy music. But, like up until that point, I was a pretty decent Triple H fan. I was a massive Rock mark. I was Rock over Austin every day of the week. Like I said, I was a huge Chris Jericho fan when I started getting invested into WCW, especially around the NWO storyline, like Chris Jericho with the Ralphus stuff. that was like, when he did the whole thing with Goldberg, trying to draw Goldberg out and beat the streak, where he did the Dean Malenko list, the man,
The moves, yeah.
the moves. Like, Jericho, you could tell. I think that was honestly the last debut on a WWF program where I was like super hyped for. Was Jericho back when he interrupted The Rock during that segment? Like, Jericho, to me, I said this to myself a couple days ago. I think he's the GOAT now. I think he's the GOAT. I don't know if people can deny that now, really, man.
I think it's definitely our era. That's what we believe, because I'm 31. You seem to be just a few years older.
Yeah.
And it seems like everyone I talk to on the podcast around our age, they all say Chris Jericho, WCW, Chris Jericho.
Mm-hmm. Just when you look at what he's been doing since the mid-90s, and like if you went back and you watched his ECW stuff or you watched his Japan stuff, because you can go find it, like before he went to WCW, like, man, that guy's always been a good worker. Just like, I know they don't want to talk about his name, but, Benoit, almost a flawless worker, right?
He was so good.
He might have been a lunatic outside the ring, but he was absolutely flawless inside of it. So,
yeah. So, how did you run into or find Efeds in the weird wide world of internet?
1997, actually.
There you go. Early on.
Yeah, early on in the inception of it. Back when GeoCities and Angel Fire were ruling the Efed world, and AOL Instant Messenger was how we all kept in contact. You know what I mean? Like, this is before the MSN groups and stuff.
Yeah.
And I started off at this place, I believe it's called World Wrestling Alliance, WWA, and I created this character, JT, my initials, and then the last name was Steele. And I just went with it, man. At first, I was like, such a Rock ripoff. It was disgusting. But, as I grew older and I grew into, it wasn't until like people don't realize it wasn't until like 99 that pick bases were a thing. You know what I mean? In 97, 98, no one really cared about pick bases.
No, there was no image. You create your wrestler and you read about him.
Yeah, man. It wasn't, and the majority of the promos were guys either backstage or their music hits and they come out to the ring and they talk whatever they got to talk, right? Like, we weren't having in-depth stories like how we have now. You didn't see that till like the early 2000s. But I remember in 99, my first pick base, and he was my pick base till 2010, was Just Incredible. Because that was a huge ECW mark too.
Yeah.
And Just Incredible. Obviously I love Taz. I love the franchise Shane Douglas because I love Triple Threat with him, Candido, and Bigelow. But I was a huge Impact Players mark for
Impact Players were so
Storm
good.
And Just Incredible, man. So like when Lance Storm went to WCW, tell me that wasn't a classic run. When they gave him all the gold and he started renaming the titles.
Yeah, making them Canadian belts.
Yeah, the Saskatchewan Hardcore Championship or whatever. I was like, classic, man. So I ran with him forever.
I always thought it would be so cool to see the Impact Players versus Cronus and Saturn.
Yeah, and that's
be awesome.
Thing. Raven's Flock, man. I was a huge Raven guy too.
There you go.
Even like I remember I did a side character back in the day named like Enigma, and he was like solely based off ECW Raven. So.
And so you were in WWA, so you got into original characters.
Yeah.
Did you ever do the role play as a real wrestler deal?
No, I actually didn't. I went to places where you could do both. Like I remember I went to one place, and I'm not even lying to you. There was NWO Black and White, NWO Black and Blue, NWO Black and Red, NWO Black.
Oh, no.
All they did was take the logo and recolor the white. And I was in the NWO Black and Blue faction and stuff. I remember joining Efed when they had the South Park. Remember when they would make the South Park?
Oh, yeah.
They'd make the South
definitely.
Park caricature.
The banners. Yeah,
man. So I did that. I never ran real guys. It was never my thing. I did that. My first places were WWA, this other place, NWA. And then when WWA shut down, I went to this place called NWFF, and we did it for like 4 years, and there was a bunch of guys from the WWA. So like I had some classic feuds back then. I remember there was this one guy, and this is back when like growth and development, you didn't really see like character growth. And, he started out, his name was the Jobber Lee Lewis. And by the time we got to we started out in WWE together, and our characters just had chemistry together. We just started feuding, and it bled into NWEFF for 3 or 4 years. But he went from Jobber Lee Lewis to Boxcar Lee Lewis, and by the end of it, he was Hollywood Lee Lewis, and he was writing all of his role plays in the style of a Hollywood script. But you saw development of a guy who started out as a quote unquote jobber to he became a Hollywood star in character, and even nowadays I don't see a guy doing 4 or 5 year growth like that. You know what I mean? It was just something special that would always stand out to me, and it's crazy. We talk about the golden era, the Attitude Era, the NWO era, and really from '97 to 2002, to me that was the golden era of Efedding. You know what I mean? When everyone was finding their feet, and then when everyone found their feet, you started seeing special stuff really pop up. So
that's awesome. So after that character, when did you move on to another character?
Oh, I didn't move on to another character until 2016.
Oh wow, until recently. Okay.
Yeah, so I ran them till on and off from '97 till 2011.
Wow.
And my last run in 2011 was I was in a place, Extreme Hardcore Wrestling Federation, and you can find them on Twitter, and they're still around, which is crazy. And I was in another place called World Wrestling Existence, WWX, and I was in EHWF. I went in there, I won their U.S. title and their world title within the first 2 months, and then I lost to some guy, and there were some good role players there, some damn good role players, and he wasn't one of them. There was this guy, there that was really good named TJ Smooth, and me and him had a really good feud. He was good, but this guy, he was not that. His name was Exalder or something. He was not that good, and lo and behold, I lost to him, and it came out that the person that was judging was his in real life girlfriend.
Oh, jeez.
And so I was just you know what, I'm too old for this. I was 2011. I'm I'm too old for this nonsense. I don't need this in my life right now. And so I dipped. I was I'm out. And then, obviously stuff happened. I got married, started working from home. And, and then 2016, I was let me give this a try. I need to stimulate my brain a little bit. And here we are.
Running hard since. And since then, have you been Silk?
No, so Silk came 3 weeks after my daughter was born in May 2018, and from end of 2016, December 2016 till that time, I was running a guy by the name of Nemesis, which is a totally different character, and I'd actually had him in my mind since the mid 2000s. And I just didn't have a good pick base for him. So when the Demon Finn Balor thing came around, when I was watching New Japan, I wasn't involved in Efeds. So when I came back to Efeds, I was that's the pick base I want to use, And by that time, he was at WWE, so there was a lot more pictures at my disposal too. But I ran Nemesis for about 2 years.
And then eventually became so. Where did you run Nemesis at? Let's start there.
I ran Nemesis at a place called Union Battleground.
Okay, I'm familiar.
I won, me and Dick Devereaux for 2 years in a row, won Feud of the Year, a bunch of other awards, held the world title there, won the Guerrilla Warfare. I think I was 11-1 there.
Wow.
And it was fun work, but man, another place that politics, brother, and I just wasn't having it, man. And, man, I'll tell you straight up, for that first season, I ran a stable called Salvation. And for that first season of Union Battleground, I carried a lot of the weight when it came to helping write the shows with the owner. And in season 2, I brought in a guy named Tommy Crimson, and he joined Salvation. And it ended up being me and him started pulling a lot of weight with writing matches, et cetera, et cetera. And then some politics as usual stuff happened behind the scenes. And I was peace out. And again, too old for that stuff. I'm really a firm believer in this game that, we don't know each other from Tom, Dick, and Harry. So all we got in this game is trust. If you're gonna go out and breach that trust, that's it, man. Like, that's all I have to base whatever acquaintanceship or whatever relationship we have. That's all I have to base it off of when you're someone, you know, on the other end of the internet, wherever you are in the world. You know what I mean? Once you breach that, you know, I'm just I move on, man. So I don't think twice.
Yeah, I don't blame you there.
So
did you so before you became Silk, we'll get into that here shortly.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever try to do Fed heading?
No. You know, I've had offers like to help, you know, and part of like judging and running things. You know, as recently as when I was doing Nemesis and as I've done Silk. But it's just, you know, like, for example, you know, you do it, you log on to Twitter, brother, you see the drama when you scroll through your timeline. Do I really want to deal with that on a daily basis by being someone's boss without being compensated for it?
Yeah.
You know, my time, like, I look at this, man, like, you know, at the end of the day, how I use my free time is to do things I want to do. So whether I want to write, et cetera, et cetera. But when it comes to me working, man, my time is money, brother. So, you know, the last thing I want to do is really put up with blah, 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 blah in my ear. I don't have time for that because, you know, you got so many egos you got to please in different ways that, you know, I'm the type of person that I don't have the patience for that, man. You know, I already babysit my daughter. I don't need to babysit, you know, 20-year-olds. And that's just the truth. That's the honest to God truth. So, you know, I mean, if you're going to tell me you would have the most chilled roster in the world, then okay, let's talk about it. But, you know, that's
doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's a pipe dream, right?
Yeah. So let's talk about Silk. How did he come about, and where did you start him out?
So I started him out at this place called Golden Globe Pro Wrestling. It lasted about like 2 or 3 months, and I had never done an angled character before. And I was talking with a couple, like I mentioned, Salvation, a guy who I roll with, and he's one of my, like, he's become a good friend outside of the game, you know, and his name's in character Vince. And I remember it was just me and him talking one day, and it just popped into my head, and I was like, yo, man, like, I don't see anyone doing like an escort, like an elite escort, you know what I mean? Like, I know Val Venus, the whole porn star thing, but like, has an elite escort, you know, like, not a prostitute, like an elite escort been done in this game? And he's like, nah, I don't think so. And I'm like, yo, man, like, Velveteen Dream looks like the perfect, like, you know, representation of that, you know what I mean? So it just was clicked, and he just kept telling me, like, yo, do it, it sounds like it'd be jokes, do it. And finally, like I was up at like 4 a.m. feeding my daughter, which is like a couple weeks old, and I just created a Twitter account. I was like, screw it, I'm gonna go through with it. And yeah, that's what it's been ever since. So, and the name is just like, you know, Sean Isaac Leonard Kennedy, equating to Silk. It was just too money not to use for me. So
yeah, you took the RVD EC3 thing and then added one.
Yeah, I didn't even think of those guys, bro. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I was like, what would sound cool, but like equals a word that's like, you know, kind of gives off that whole like sexy vibe that I want to do with them. But it was kind of all like just like for a gag at first. Like, I didn't think I'd be sitting here with like 850 followers on Twitter, man. Like, I didn't.
No doubt.
I'd like Nemesis had like 200. So I was like, you know, but he was also like a really super dark heel that like I just talked mad smack to in a pretty, and I articulated it in like a really annoying, educated sounding way. Whereas Silk is just like, he was supposed to be a gag, but he ended up being serious, I guess. So
there you have it. And where has he been since?
Oh man,
basically everything I read off in the beginning.
More, bro. Like, man, I got his like, I think I've been in like 8, because people used to use the whole thing on you, like, you know, when people can't handle the trash talk on Twitter, when they gotta basically say you're like a company whore, you know what I'm saying? So I used to get that all the time, because at one point he was in like 6 or 7 spots.
Right, because you have this guy and this guy you want to fight.
Yeah. But you'd also have like randoms always chiming in, you know what I mean? And then it would get into like, oh, you're in so many companies, and it's like, yo, bro, not my fault. And in character, you say, well, it's not my fault. I'm in demand, you know.
That is absolutely
really not that hard of a counter if you really think that's going to work in your favor, saying, oh, you're in too many spots. Well, I mean, dude, that just shows.
Everybody wants me. I'm so fly.
You know what I'm saying? Like you're basically stroking my ego in character without me having to do it. So, okay.
And out of character. Fuck it.
Yeah. But brother, like, you know, I know a lot of people, man, it turned into me like, man, this doesn't mean anything off Twitter and off the internet. You know what I mean? So,
right.
Like,
you're not a badass because you beat someone in a role play.
When I put that phone down, I don't even think twice, brother. I keep moving it with my life, with my wife, my daughter. Like, I don't, like, I know there's some people that results eat away at them, and people have even claimed me that results have eaten away at me. And, like, not really, man. Like, I'm not in my early 20s. Like, I'm not out here to prove anything to anyone, and I'm not looking for an acceptance from anyone. Really, I'm just out here doing me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a hobby.
If you're respectful to me, I reciprocate that tenfold. You know what I mean? And that's just how it goes. I've learned that I don't even care about results, man. Like 4CW, for example, when the last Thought Chocolate run, man, I was in such a place of zen. We posted it. We posted, me and Cartier, we post our role plays, and that's it for me. That's where it stopped for me. It was like, if we won, cool. If we lost, so be it. That's, you know, at the end of the day, all this stuff comes down to people's subjective opinions. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
you know, people are going to like what they like, and that works for judges too. You know what I mean? Just like you're not going to please everyone in life, not every judge is going to like your writing, no matter how good you are, how good other people think you are, or how good you think you are. There's always going to be judges there that vote against you.
There's a reason why there's 50 different types of books.
Exactly, man. You know what I mean? So I don't let someone's opinion of what they think is a good role play really affect me in life, bro. It is what it is.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
no, you're not a bad writer because one guy didn't like what you wrote.
Exactly, man. You know what I mean? I'm not here for acceptance from anyone, bro. If you like it, you like it. Like, that's great, man. Like, I'm just here. Like, my end of the day, everyone's goal should just be, hey, we want to make something that people enjoy reading. And that's it. And at the end of the day, some people aren't going to enjoy what they read from you. You just got to live with it and move on with your life, because it ain't worth stressing about. There's way bigger and more meaningful things in life that are worth your time, rather than stressing about whether someone likes your role play or not.
There you go.
So
wise words. So hit us with Silk. What's other than we know what he's about? Mm-hmm. Where is he at right now?
So right now, I just we signed up with Wrestling Christ. We're just trying to figure out where to move Thought Chocolate since 4CW closed down. I've just been more busy with like stuff I was talking to you about before we went live and stuff. So it's just been taking up time for me, right? So it's just been a slow process in that. But you know, we're at Oath. Elysium's on hiatus, 4CW's on hiatus. Southside, always mainstream, always been mainstay there in those companies for a while now. So great owners, you know what I mean? That's what I can say about Trixie from Southside. She's one of the most amazing people anyone will ever talk to on here. She's an absolute sweetheart, and you know, she takes on so much people's BS and takes it with a smile on her face and in stride that I absolutely adore her for it. I don't think many people are built like that, and so I think she doesn't get enough appreciation. Rob from Mainstream he's an absolutely amazing Fed head. So understanding. I mean, you spoke with him. He's just such a great guy, man. I can't say one single thing bad about him. And even, you know, 4CW, Perry, man. Like, I know there's some people out there that Perry, man, like, you know, we talked about subjective opinions with judges and stuff. I will give it, like, I have never seen someone like him or even Faye that really break down and give you feedback and actually want you to do better and stuff like that, and like fit, because there's a 4CW style, a 4CW mold, whatever you want to call it. And you know, Perry is like, I know people try and give him a bad rap, I don't know if there's any people fairer in this game than Perry, man. And same goes with Queen Phoenix, man. Like, absolutely stand-up people, and they're always, even if you lose, they give you feedback on, hey, this is what, this is how you could have made that role play more relevant to the situation, or you said this when actually historically this is what happened. You know what I mean? Because they're all about like doing research and talking about 4CW history. So, like, I'm blessed to have good Fed heads, man. Like, that's the one thing I can say. I haven't ran into any of these Fed heads that are crazy nuts or causing, a ton of drama on social media, other than when Perry and his boys like to troll people and rile them up a little bit. But I know at the end of the day, he's a good dude, man. Like, so I feel like I got to say that publicly, because I know there's such a big divide between 4CW and people on there. And, one of the reasons why I went back there is because people know there's people there that I don't like flat out, I don't like. People know that. But I want to show you guys, to show people out there that, like, even if you don't like people there and don't get along with people there, or that people consider the in crowd or the it crowd, that you can still win. You can still put out good role plays, and you can still get things done. Perry and Faye, they're not like that. You know what I mean? They're not biased like that. So, like, that's what that whole thing was, to show that, you don't have to be in with that certain little clique. You can do your thing, and you can still make things happen. So, like, I hope if they come back that more people are more open to going and joining that place, because, they got a lot of good role players there, man. A lot of good role players.
That's awesome. That's a good roundup. So, before we move on to the questions from the crowd, why should people check out Silk?
I don't know if I'm not great at self-pitching like that. I don't know, man. Like, I can't really give you a good reason. I mean, I try to be funny at times. I try to have decent trash talk. I take pride in my banter, because I don't think there's a ton of people. There's obviously people out there who can, but I don't think there's a vast majority of people out there that can hang with me on the banter stuff. So there's definitely people in 4CW that can get it going, and I think it sharpened my skills even further with the banter stuff. But if you want to see good banter, I guess I provide it. But I can't say that as of late, because, like I said, I've been so busy with real life that, people have probably noticed my activity has kind of slowed up a little bit, and I've only been here and there. So,
no, but I think that's a good roundup. Entertainment and good trash talk. I think that's half of what e-fedding is.
Yeah, I guess so. Exactly.
All right, let's move on to the questions from the Twitter and the Discord. From TEF producer, that's the eFed podcast producer. Why so smooth?
Why so smooth? Because I guess silk the actual fabric is. So I was like, I love the Destino, right? The reverse somersault DDT. So it's like,
okay,
how can I make that sound good though? So I was like, yo, silky smooth DDT. So like, it looked, when Naito does the run up and he does it properly without hesitation, like, that thing looks buttery smooth. So I was like, yo, silky smooth DDT. There you go. So I just carried over to silky smooth Efed.
That's awesome. At Chris Ross, who the hell is Silk?
Sean Isaac Leonard Kennedy.
There he is. I got to ask them all. I'm sorry. At Alex Smith, or I'm sorry, at Alex Smiley. He's going to be pissed I messed up his name. If you could be any kind of vegetable, what vegetable would you be and why?
Wow, that's an odd question.
Yeah, Discord's trying to throw you off.
I guess potato, because there's so many uses for them.
There you go. Potatoes.
Scallop fries. What do you want?
You got to go with diced.
There you go. Baked.
All right, Twitter questions. At Burrows5, what's your favorite thing about playing Silk?
What's crazy is, besides being personal, like personal stuff going on in my life and being busy, I've actually found lately that, a lot of the fun has kind of Man, and again, I attribute it to social media, man. Like, you just get to a point where you need breaks. You know what I mean? And I don't remember that, back in the early 2000s. I don't remember needing breaks. And it's like social media sometimes takes the fun out of it. And the funnest thing to me is banter, trash talk. But you get a lot of times where these people take it personal. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, you can tell they're taking in-character stuff in an out-of-character way, and it's like, the amount of time. Like, I got a rap for a little bit for DMing people and being like, yeah, hey, I hope you know this is all good. It's just for all in-character fun, because I had too many people taking me in an out-of-character way when I first started the character.
Getting offended.
Yeah. And it's like, and then people start using that against you. You know what I'm saying? Like, hopping in DMs and be like, hey man, I just want to make sure that this is in character. And then you got people that hate on you just because some people don't like you see and do things. That's just how life is. And whether it's something as minuscule as e-fetting or as big as your real job, that's just human nature. You see it all the time, right? So like, you would get people starting to use that against me. Like, reaching, grasping for straws, be like, oh, he'll just hop in my DMs anytime soon. And it's like, yeah, man, I did that once. That was months ago, just to make sure that you knew this was in character and this wasn't anything personal. Like, the fact that people start using that against you is some next level thing I've seen on social media, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, people are nuts,
bro. It's messed up, bro. Like, so.
Second question from Megan. Where did the name Thought Chocolate come from?
So I just hit up Cartier's handler, and like, I had known her since I was Nemesis. She had done some Twitter drama, and I just let her know, like, straight up. I'm like, yo, man, I got your back. I know how some of these people are. Just keep doing you. You're good at what you do. And we just started kicking it. And then the Southside Golden Tag came up, and like, man, there were 30 plus teams in that. And I just hit her up, and I was like, yo, we should join this. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems like we were meant to join this. And so it just popped in my head. I was like, what could be a funny name that's kind of like a pun? And Thought Chocolate, just, Silk, he's an elite escort, but he's a thought, I guess. And, Cartier does that thought thing for sure. So I was like, yo, Thought Chocolate. And she loved it. I signed it up, and I'll never forget Brian Laughlin. I guess read the sign-up sheet, and when he tweeted out, like, LMAO, that's the best name I've ever seen, I was like, okay, we made it. So, yeah.
There you go. At B Ford, the IOG, people you want to face and have storylines with that you have not already.
So going back to the Union Battleground days, I know it's crazy because behind the scenes, and I don't even think the owner knew this as big as it was, but man, I was in contact with the whole roster, man. Like, and I was really in with everyone. Like, the champion after me, that's the one I was promoting. I was like, yo, man, I'll drop the title to Alyssa Daniels. I love this girl. And, well, the girl in character, but dude, out of character. I'm like, yo, I love this character. I want to put him over. And one team that was there, since Silk has become this kind of tag team specialist, one team that was there, they ended up becoming my good friends, OOC, and they were called the Outliers, Sawtooth Grin and He Who Corrupts. And I don't know if as a tag team, I haven't seen many better collaborative role players than them. So I would have really loved for the Outliers and Thought Chocolate. Would have loved that to happen big time. I would have loved for me and Cosmo Cooper to do that thing proper, but between the Wrestling Trade Council, Television Council, or whatever we were part of in mainstream, that thing kind of got kind of lost in the shuffle, but we had a lot of big plans for that 7-match series. There's not, I don't really go out there and like say, oh, I want to work. I want chemistry. Whoever I work with, like the one thing me and Dick Devereaux had in Union Battleground when we did Nemesis versus Dick Devereaux, the chemistry was crazy. It was also because I was writing 90% of the segs, but like the chemistry between us is crazy in terms of bouncing ideas off of it and then me turning it into something like, if people really go back and read season 1 and season 2 of Union Battleground and go read that Nemesis and Dick Devereaux stuff, like you guys will be like, there were people died, like his sister got kidnapped and like sacrificed, like it was on some next level stuff, man. And it was like a great read. So I implore people, even though I shouldn't be sending traffic there, really go back. Don't sign up. Go back and read season 1, and season 2, and like you'll read some good stuff, man. So I don't have like a dream list. You know what I mean? I don't really do that. I want to do a program one day with Billy Danielson for sure. I think we'd have great chemistry. I want to do a long program with Mariano Fernandez. I respect the handler a ton. I think he's a great role player. I think he's so dedicated and into it that he would be a lot of fun to do something long term with for sure. Oh, and Brian Laughlin, because even since when I was back there as Nemesis, to me, Bronx was an amazing writer. Bronx Cosmo Cooper, amazing writer. And I think Brian Laughlin is right up there. I've always thought he was just an incredible writer. So doing something with him would be awesome.
There you have it. His second question, why do you think a game as fun as this contains so many toxic individuals who seem bent on ruining it for the others for their own amusement?
I think you got a lot of... So I don't know how to say this without not kind of sounding like a dick, but
just be a dick.
You got a lot of people who in real life, you know what I mean? However you want to cut it, they don't have a lot of acceptance. They don't have a lot of positive things going on in life. They're working 9 to 5s they ain't happy with. Coming home, they ain't happy, and they use this as their outlet, you know what I mean? And some people use that in a good way. You know what I'm saying? Some people who aren't happy with their life in the real life, they come out here and they're some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. But you got those ones who aren't happy how they are in their real life. They come on here and they're the first people to drag someone. You know what I mean? And what's crazy is, like, something I've noticed is some of the most toxic people are also some of the people that share their life the most on Efed Twitter. And why is that? Because they want acceptance. They want the likes. Because they don't get it in real life. You know what I'm saying? So you got those people coming out here and they try and drag you down. I talked about it earlier. It's human nature. People don't want to see you shine. People are always out there trying to dim it, whether it's something as small as a hobby as e-fanning or whether it's something as big as a promotion at your job if you get it. And there's always going to be someone jealous, man. It's crazy. It's human nature. You know what I mean? But it's crazy that, like, this didn't exist, man. I'm telling you, when I started in 97, early 2000s with AOL Instant Messenger and the websites and the boards, man, this didn't exist. This toxicity was not around, man. And, we've given outlets to people who think they're freaking gatekeepers, but, like, they're nothing like that. You know what I mean? Like, one day there legitimately needs to be a purge. And, you know what I'm saying? And it needs to happen at Efed Twitter first. And, like I said earlier, there's people I don't get along with, but there's people in that same group of people I don't get along with that I do get along with. So it is what it is, man. You just got to look at these people and be like, if you're going to stoop to trying to make yourself look better than me online, I've already beaten you in life. You know what I'm saying? So that's it,
right,
man. Just don't lower your, and I'm terrible for that. Sometimes I engage with that, and that's because, in a way, it's crazy. Sometimes I feel an obligation, man. Like, I know there's a lot of passive people out here. Some of the nicest people I've met, they just let some of these people drag them, and they won't say a peep. You know what I mean? But then when they see me getting into it with those people and giving them a dose of medicine, those people got dragged will hop in my DMs and be like, yo, man, thank you, da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, man, you don't understand the DMs I get for that stuff. Like, it's crazy. These people, when they start these conversations, it's only a select few. There's only like 3 or 4 that started. They think they're proving a point on Twitter, but if they saw my DMs blowing up, bro, they would think twice about doing it again, bro, because I'm telling you, man, people are like clowning these people. And it's people from different sects of the Efed world, you know what I mean? In different feds that don't talk to these feds, you know what I mean? Yet the only people that are probably clowning me are their 3 or 4 friends. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, in their private
Exactly.
Discord.
While I've got like people who don't know each other from different feds hollering at me and clowning these people. So it is what it is, man. You just gotta, like, at the end of the day, you gotta rise above, and that's why you've seen my activity dwindle, because I've too many times over the past month I've come on here, I've seen first thing in the morning. You guys are starting at 6 a.m., bro. Like, yo, and that's the thing. These are the type of people, man. If you're starting your day off with that negative crap, what kind of person are you, man? Like,
that's gonna be the rest of your day.
You know what I'm saying? These people just breed off that negativity and live in it, man. They look for it. Like, you see these people, and they say it like, you know, there's always a little truth in every joke, right? And they'll come on half jokingly, like, "Oh, who are we dragging today?" Like, these people, and the worst ones are the ones who aren't even involved, yet somehow they got to start retweeting and commenting, and they got to they got to have their input heard by everyone. It's like, yo, sit down, shut up. You know what I mean? And let people deal with their problems on their own. Don't hop in and escalate the situation and turn it into and you've seen this, the 2 or 3 day drama drags where everyone's dragging everyone over something that started because someone hopped in that shouldn't have, man. Like, yo, like, and what's crazy, brother, I'll tell you, be the first one to tell you this. None of these people would be doing this if we were all sitting in the same room together.
No, none of them.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing, man. Like, I'll keep it a buck. I'll keep it a real buck with you. Man, I've seen what some of you look like. You wouldn't be doing this. You wouldn't be doing this in real life, man. And you can call me a dick or whatever, but I'm gonna tell you real talk. You would not be doing that in real life. And that's as real as it gets. So stick behind your keyboard, continue being that weak person you are, and you know, you want to meet me at a sporting event, holler at me at a sporting event. I'm a Penguins fan. I'm a Dolphins fan. You know where to find me. So
there you go. His third question. Do you remember when you posted the dick gif?
Yeah.
Because we do.
Oh, yeah. And what's crazy is I tell these people, I'll say it for everyone to hear now. That was literally a social experiment. Like, that wasn't to get likes or do anything. And I think I got like over 2,500, 2,600 views on that. And that was in the first month. I haven't checked since then. I've gone back to the tweets since then. You know, you can check the analytics or whatever. But, yeah, man, that was literally a social experiment, bro. That was all that was, okay, we got so many handlers, whether they're female or male. They're constantly posting, like, you know, TNA, right, with their female pick bases. So, you know, I'm not going to show it. But, you know, obviously, like, one of Silk's nicknames is the Black Anaconda, right? So let's put it out there and let's do the male version of, you know, like boobs in a bikini or like, you know, an ass in a thong. Let's do the male version of that and let's see the reaction we get. And it's crazy because a lot of people laughed with it. A lot of people were having fun with it, and then you got that small same sect of people that, you know, they gotta do their thing. But yeah, it was crazy. That was a wild time, man. My DMs, oh my god, bro. Like, bro, like, you know, I run a sexual character, guys, but I don't do sex in the DMs. Like, throwing that out there, man, because it was wild for a while there. So, you know.
Next question, at Dats Azzy Vebens. Which tag team would you and Cartier like to face who isn't working for a company you work for, like Southside Wrestling, Mainstream Wrestling, Elysium Pro, etc.? Wishing you well, amigo.
Yeah, I like that handler, and I know, like, you know, that handler gets flack for, you know, they stay in character, man. They sell their character, you know. They do their accent in their tweets and stuff. But, you know, people are like, oh, who really tweets like that? But you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the only outlet that person constantly has to do character development. You know what I'm saying? So that's why they write
if you got a problem with Dats Azzy Vebens, you got a problem with me because she's been following this podcast since episode 1.
Yo, like, good, always been chill to me, and I mean, I remember months ago someone threw shade pretty hard at the handler, and they let me know, and I was ready. Like, I had a tweet ready, bomb ready to drop. I screenshot it, and I said, yo, can I send this? Because I don't intervene like these other people, bro. Like, if I'm going to intervene, I'll write it out, I'll screenshot it, and I'll send it to the person and be like, yo, it's your issue, but I want to back you up. And like a real person, like a real G, she was like, yo, don't. It's cool. Like, just forget about it. Let it slide. And I was heated because, that handler really puts in work. You know what I mean? So, like, I was heated, man. And he's always been really cool to me. So, but yeah, in terms of tag teams, I know we were going to do the last Mile High Wrestling show. We're going to face the Shield Maidens for the tag titles, but we had to cancel because we thought a 4CW show was going to be lining up at that. The pay-per-view was going to be coming around that time, and we want to focus on that because we wanted to get a shot at the tag titles at 4CW and win those. So we're kind of just like at a standstill, so we had to pass on that, and then it ended up going on hiatus, and we felt really bad. So I guess recently we would have liked to have that Shield Maidens match. Like I said earlier, would have loved to have that Outliers match. I think eventually I'd want to do again Manny and Trixie. Would like to face them. But in terms of role playing against, we haven't always seen eye to eye, but I would love Thought Chocolate against Anna Hayden and Lisa Selden. I think that would be a really good match, and I think some good pieces would be dropped because Anna and I definitely respect as a role player, the handler as a role player, and same thing with Lisa. From what I've seen, Lisa, that handler does a lot of good character work and busts his butt. So I would love to go off with them, but definitely wouldn't do it with where they're at right now, being Union Battleground. So. Bro, people are gonna just say, yo, you're taking shots, yo. It is what it is, man. Like, y'all don't know what went down. I won't get into the politics. You can go find it on my timeline if you really want to go, because someone called me out on it one time and I dropped literal screenshots of the DMs. But yeah, man, that owner didn't just do me dirty. They did Vitus dirty. They did the Outliers pretty dirty, and they did the Firing Squad pretty dirty. So, yeah, there ain't no love lost there, man.
There you have it. That's Azzy Evans as a second question. If Shaft and Dolomite face Clubber Lang and Show Nuff in a tag match, who would win?
Man, Clubber Lang would knock out everyone probably. But my heart is telling me if we're talking about in character, Dolomite. Yeah,
Dolomite and Shaft are beating Clubber Lang and Show Nuff.
Oh man, I don't know, man, because Dolomite was a G, bro.
And you got Samuel L. Jackson on that team. Maybe if you go with the movie version.
I feel like Clubber Lang's only holding together the one team, but you got a better rounded mixture with Dolomite and Shaft. So I gotta go Dolomite and Shaft.
There you have it. I agree with that. At 1% INC, when are you going to open your own Fed?
Chris Constantine Jr., another great guy, great handler, damn hard worker. This guy works. He busts his butt, this guy. Especially
great follow on Twitter.
Yeah, man. Great follow on Twitter. He does the best, pardon my language, chicken shit heel probably around. Yeah, not happening, Chris. So when are you reopening your Fed? That's a better question.
Boom. Dropped it on you. At Lexi Gold 13, what are your thoughts on the whole Real Wrestling stealing Efed ideas? Do you believe that to be true? Love your character, by the way.
Thanks for the compliment at the end. I appreciate that a lot. Yeah, it's been happening since the early 2000s. Like, I remember storylines back in the day being jacked and people complaining about it. So that's been going on for a while. When you got a guy like Seth Rollins who used to be an E-Fedder, obviously there's been wrestlers who have gone through there that know about Efeding and that have definitely,
looks for an angle.
Exactly. It's it's basically impossible to deny if you ask me.
There you go. Great question.
Very good question, yeah.
At War Matsuda, how did you come up with the fantastic name that is Thought Chocolate? We kind of covered that one already. But how did you and Cartier meet?
Another great handler, War Matsuda. I think we're doing her character's birthday show. I think when I was Nemesis, I DM'd her, like I said, she was had some drama going on, the handler, and I just DM'd them and let them know that, like, keep your head up, man. You're good at what you do. I love your character work. Like, don't let these idiots get you down, basically. Like, don't fall victim to the buffoonery. And we just hit it off since then. And then when I created Silk, that handler was one of the first people I let know that I was Nemesis, because I kept that under wraps for like a good 6-7 months, I think. And she was one of the first people I told who I was. So we've been really good friends ever since.
That's awesome. It's cool when you can meet people just randomly like that.
Yeah, man, and it's cool, like, when you get to a level of trust where, like, I won't go into the details, but I remember a couple months, like probably like 6-7 months ago, the handler just hit me up and it's like, yo, like, there's something I've been wanting to tell you. And I was like, uh-oh. You know what I mean? Like, nothing good starts with that. And I was like, uh-oh. And then, really, eh?
I'm a millionaire.
And the handler ended up telling me, like, they were really this character, that character, this character, and they owned this Fed. And I was like, are you serious? Like, I've interacted with these people before. And they're like, yeah, man, no one knows. I'm not going to say who or what, like, who they are. But, like, when you get to that level of trust with someone where, like, they hit you up and they say, I feel bad, I haven't really told you everything. That's a cool thing to me, man. Like, when you build that kind of trust with someone, man, like, like I talked about Vitus earlier, like, we send each other pictures of our kids. We talk on the phone, we text, daily. Like, we instill trust, like, we built a legitimate friendship off of it. So it's always beautiful when you have that kind of stuff stem from a hobby like this. You know what I mean? So,
no doubt. At Catch Wakefield, what do you feel separates your character most from the Velveteen Dream pick base?
So I got to lay something out here. So I know a lot of people Velveteen Dream, right, with the Prince connection. And Silk's music is actually Purple Rain by Prince. But it was actually originally a song by Black, like 6LACK, the R&B artist. And the reason why I changed it to a Prince song was because Purple Rain, for about 4 months, is the only song my daughter would fall asleep to. So that, like, it was a way to tie in my daughter to my character, because, like I said, I created my character when, like, only 3 weeks after my daughter was born, right? But I had that Black music. So I changed to Prince because I was like, yo, my daughter loves that. That could be like my tie-in. But in terms of separating it from Velveteen Dream, this whole character was basically, if you were to read his original bio, the whole reason, he was trained. And again, my tie-in, my personal tie-in, his grandpa was a wrestler. And his grandpa took him to his first wrestling show, and he started training because of his grandpa. Well, that's the tie-in with, I still have my love for wrestling because I was watching with my grandpa when I was younger, right? So,
right.
And then also his dad left him when he was young, and his grandfather raised him with his mother, and that's what happened with me. So it's another personal tie-in. So it's actually a lot more me and what I think would be funny. And like when I started out, his talk was a lot more like Ric Flair swag. Like he was rhyming words and I was saying like witty sentences, et cetera, et cetera. But, he's got like a bit of the Rock in him. You know what I mean? And that's why he's neutral, because he gets a fan favorite, but he can still be kind of like an arrogant prick if he wants to be.
Sure.
But when you read his original bio, one of the main reasons why he came in, he finally said, okay, I'm going to get into wrestling, was because, I don't know if do you remember when Backpage got shut down?
Yes.
Yeah, well, you can find
not for personal reasons.
Yeah, I know, but you can find like everything on Backpages, right? So I had him as one of his things is he would find clientele off Backpages. So when Backpages went down, he needed another source of income, right? And then he became an elite escort as he became popular in the wrestling industry. And he's like, what is he? He's like $50,000 an hour right now.
So the more popular he gets in wrestling, the higher his rate gets in escorting.
Yeah, so when he doesn't have a title, he's like $25,000 an hour, and when he does have a title, he's $50,000 an hour. And I've actually had DMs. I got receipts where people hit me up and they wanted to like DM sex or whatever, and I like don't do that. But first thing I did was talking to them in character. I got their character in character to agree to the fee and agree to like in character sending the money transfer, and then I hit them with the bomb that I don't do DM sex, by the way. So like, just so I could like legitimately have receipts where I'm like, this is why he has so much money. You know what I mean? Like, so it's hilarious. So I use it to kind of tell his story a bit more, but he's kind of fallen back on that. I've kind of had him do like, he doesn't really talk about it as much. Like I used to post money pics all the time and et cetera, but I kind of have him in more of like, I guess you could say, I don't call it a pimp. I call it an evening entertainment employer. And what he employs are evening entertainers, and he just employs males for females. And so he's kind of an employer now, more so than he is actually doing. And I'm working on something where eventually he's going to burn his little black book for a woman, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah.
Character development.
Yeah, all day, buddy. I mean, there was a time for about 3 or 4 months where he was a conscious guy, and I had the logos all done. I had graphics done to the T, and I was ready to create a stable, and it was going to be like a conscious pro black stable. And it just kind of fell apart. But yeah, for about 3 or 4 months, he was like basically almost a Black Panther. So
there you have it. Next question at Mikey Unlikely. What are your top 10 NFL quarterbacks and your top 10 draft quarterbacks?
So, I guess I'll start off with NFL. So I guess Mahomes, Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, Drew Brees, Deshaun Watson, Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, and I'll put Kyler Murray in there.
Okay.
And then if you want, I can give you my big board in order if you want for quarterback.
Give it to me.
So my top 10, I would actually, when healthy, preface it. I would have Tua Tagovailoa as the best passer in this draft, and then Joe Burrow behind him, and then I'd have Jordan Love, and then I would have Justin Herbert, and then I would have Jacob Eason from Washington, and then I'd have Anthony Gordon from Washington State, and then I'd have Jalen Hurts from Oklahoma, and then I'd have Jake Fromm from Georgia.
State Farm.
Yeah. And then I would have Steve Montez from Colorado. And then my top 10 guy, my 10th guy, who I think big time sleeper, has a lot of tools, just has to clean up parts of his game, is Cole McDonald from Hawaii.
Okay.
And I think the big sleeper in this draft is James Morgan from Florida International. So
there you have it, guys. Before the call started, our 3-minute test call turned into a 30-minute football talk.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah. That was a good one, though.
Yeah, absolutely. So awesome, man. Hey, that's all I got for the Twitter questions. Before we go, I'm going to give you a chance to give all your plugs, hit your Twitter link, so on and so forth, and we'll go from there. Anything else you want to talk about? Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess Twitter at SilkySmoothEfed. I mean, yeah, I got to kind of backtrack a bit. Join whoever you want, you know what I mean? Don't let my personal feelings get in the way of anything. Join wherever you want. Just have fun, man. And if you got to take a couple of days away from the bullshit, I think everyone understands it because, at times that's all that Twitter timeline is for a couple of days sometimes, right? So just, I can't stress it enough, guys. Like, I've said it before. It would be nice if unity was more of a thing across, but I mean, that's a pipe dream. It'll never happen. So all I can say is I hope everyone, gets as long as best they can. Everyone stays blessed in life, even the ones that want to make other people's lives miserable. Kill them with kindness, man. Wish nothing but the best for even your enemies, right? So, I want to thank you a lot for having me on. It's been a blast. Even the conversation we had before about football. Not often I get to talk to a Bengals fan. So.
Yeah, same with the Dolphins, brother.
Hey, yeah, I guess so. I don't know what to say.
Not a lot of those up here in Ohio, but yeah, awesome. Well, hey, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. This is a fun interview. Guys, check them out at Silky Smooth Efed on Twitter. And we're out of time. Thanks a lot for joining us here on the Efed Podcast. And that was a lot of fun. But that's going to wrap us up for another edition of the Efed Podcast here on the Atomic Dropcast Network. I do want to thank our sponsors, of course, the Atomic Dropcast at atomicdropcast.com. Dropping new episodes on YouTube each and every week. Just give it a search, the Atomic Dropcast. I want to thank wearesplat.com for sponsoring the show. I want to thank the EWC at EWC4life.com. They're sponsoring the Efed Podcast Question of the Week. And I want to thank DefianceWrestling.com for not only being the Efed Spotlight Fed of the Week, but for supporting the show as well. Guys, thank you again for listening. Everyone out there, I really appreciate your support. Check out the patreon.com/Efed Podcast if you would like to follow and help out the podcast and earn some extra perks in the process. Otherwise, for Brian, the producer, I'm Mikey. This is the Efed Podcast, where the wrestling is written, and the characters are real.
You've been listening to the Efed Podcast, only on the Atomic Dropcast Network, presented commercial-free on Patreon.